It's Christmas time in Hollis, Queens. Man, this is Christmas music, said my man Argyle. Now, time to let you in on a sad truth. The reality is, not every movie out there can be the perfect amalgamation of Christmas, action, and the motion picture that Die Hard is. However, many people still try anyway. Now, some people think the best way to copy the Die Hard formula is to take a bunch of professional wrestlers and use them to stand in for a total lack of John McClane. And while on paper I should be totally down for this recipe, no. First, we have Santa with muscles. Santa with muscles. Is it just me or does it sound like a holiday seafood dish? Anyway, Hulk Hogan plays Blake Thorne, the blonde combination of the biggest douchebag at your office with the biggest douchebag at your gym. Wow, that sounds like a Wolfenstein level of villain, huh? You see, this is the exact reason why I don't work at an office. And why I don't go to the gym. Now, Blake Thorne is a millionaire who made his fortune through his exercise enterprise, and he desperately needs to be taught a lesson because he's not the nicest of guys. And right now, I would totally bash this for being another tired cliche Scrooge ripoff, but, well, next week's Monday Night Wrong is kind of in the same boat, so, I'm just gonna let it go. Quick aside here. There are 3 things that 9 times out of 10 make me roll my eyes in utter disgust when they're used as a plot device in movies. And they are identical twins and amnesia.
Is to be hit over the head with it.
Santa! What? Now back to the lecture at hand. Blake hits his head and gets total amnesia and therefore believes himself to be the actual Santa Claus, which is almost the origin of King Tut in the old Adam West Batman show. Just throwing that out there. Now, in case you're still wondering how this film still managed to gross so dangerously low, well, allow me to finish explaining the plot to you. Ed Begley Jr. plays an evil mad scientist who needs to steal a bunch of magic crystals from underneath an orphanage. And one of the orphans is played by a young Mila Kunis. You see that? And you thought Ashton Kutcher was the worst thing she's ever done. Actually, still might be. All I'm saying is, amnesia being used in a Christmas action movie, unless you're the long kiss goodnight, don't even bother. So Hogan, you best stay in your lane. Stick to making Suburban Commando or No Holds Barred or illegally recorded career-damaging racist adult films. Whatever. Now, The Miz for some reason has done not 1 but 2 holiday-themed movies. And I know it's just a gimmick and all, but I think the A-lister should probably stay away from doing B movies. And I'm using the letter B very generously. Now, the first of Miz's holiday-themed movies was Christmas Bounty, where The Miz plays the ex-boyfriend of a bounty hunter turned teacher who has to come out of retirement to fight an old enemy with the help of The Miz. Now, this teacher also has a fiancé who she's trying to keep her old life away from. Wait a minute, how many times I gotta say it? You're not the long kiss goodnight. And on a side note, lying to your fiancé around Christmas time, not the best foundation for a successful marriage. Miz's other holiday movie is Santa's Little Helper, where he plays a corporate schmuck who is trying to demolish a youth center. And right after this is established, Miz loses this corporate job, which for some reason then qualifies him to be Santa's second in command? But not really, because all of this was just a ruse. As it turns out, one of Santa's elves, Billy, has been helping the Miz compete for the job against another elf played by Paige. But plot twist, as it turns out, Billy was the one who was really being tested to see if she could take a total and utter garbage person like the Miz and turn him into a decent human being. And on the Paige front, might I point out that I think it's pretty interesting that if you were going to take a British WWE wrestler and make them play an elf, how did Adrian Neville not get cast? Now, clearly, The Miz thinks that Christmas is awesome. But what if you didn't think Christmas was awesome? What if you didn't like Santa Claus? What if Santa never brought you anything that you wanted and you wanted to criminalize him as a result? Well, there's a good chance that's the exact kind of thought process that went into making the movie Santa's Sleigh. This is a horror movie that follows in the tradition of leprechaun and tooth fairy monsters by taking beloved childhood figures and turning them into murderous villains. Where's my Easter Bunny with rabies movie? In Santa's Sleigh, Santa is actually a homicidal maniac who is sentenced to giving presents out for 1,000 years. But after his sentence is up, he is free to return to his running riot ways. Santa is played by Bill Goldberg, and somehow he looks less out of place in this movie than he did beating Kevin Owens. Oh great, and there are twins in this movie too. Next up, Jingle All the Way. Well, many people have picked on this Arnold movie for focusing on the commercial side of Christmas, and many people have picked on baby Anakin Skywalker. I want to dedicate this entry into focusing on the giant Santa Claus as played by The Big Show. So while we didn't get Shaq versus The Big Show, at least we got Arnold versus The Big Show in Jingle All the Way, and I don't know if that's better or worse or what. Oh, and somehow this movie got a sequel with Larry the Cable Guy. And finally, we have I Am Santa Claus, another documentary that documents something that nobody wanted documented. The idea here is to follow around a bunch of men who play Santa Claus all year round to show what their regular life is like. Yeah, that sounds super interesting. I mean, big surprise. The guy who plays Santa Claus on the mall is a real person the rest of the year? There's no shock there. What do I care? As it turns out, they have regular jobs, personal lives, romantic interests, and they need food, air, and shelter. For me, it would be a much better documentary if they took these guys and forced them to live just like Santa for the entire year instead. They're just regular people. Following them around is just as arbitrary as following around any other regular random person. It's just these people happen to look like Santa Claus. Now, what does this have to do with wrestling? Well, one of these Santas is played by none other than wrestling's own Mick Foley, who follows up beyond the mat with this. Bit of a downgrade. Just wondering, at some point in time, when you realize that you secured Mick Foley this film, how do you not go to yourself and say, hey, maybe I should just do a documentary about Cactus Jack instead? Just throwing that out there. And now, the ripping tagline for this documentary is, whose lap is your child sitting on? They totally could have thought of something better. I mean, just almost anything would have been better. Well, there you go, wrestlers in Christmas movies. Have yourself a happy holiday season, and join me next time when we see if I can still fit into this jacket after I do all the eating I plan on doing.